Today we're going to go over how every team can win Masters London. We're going to go region by region and then go through each team. So for example, in Americas, we're going to start with Leviatán. And then I'm going to go over which player needs the most impact in order to be able to take their team down a deep run and be able to, potentially make top 4 or win it all. And so let's start with Lev. Sato is the player on Lev that needs to be the person that has the most impact. And this is not only in-game stuff, but I think it's also the out-game state. Like, Sato has shown that, okay, if I provide my team energy, I can be able to propel and lift up the vibes and pretty much shift in the energy, because I feel like he was so crucial in part of Lev's run. And that's kind of become the story of Lev. Is like, oh, Sato, I believe it was Blows saying, "Hey, I miss when you would stand up and just like go crazy, like do your own thing, like express yourself, give us energy." And then Sato started doing that, and every time they would win a round, they would just go streaking on round after round, 7 rounds, and then next thing you know, they end up winning. And honestly, if it's any other team besides G2, then they're winning that America spot and then going into a first seed. And Sato is a crucial factor because once there's a crowd with the Swish stage and maybe even to playoffs, like that's just gonna rejuvenate and like give these boys like the extra pump that they need in order to get across the line. And I think it's so important because these teams, or especially now with Valorant, like the pistol rounds are so crucial and be able to snowball and be able to hit the ground running and have a good start. Having a good start is so good, especially as a young team. And so Sato is the crucial factor, and maybe even he might pivot into the main duelist, especially with Spike maybe no longer playing Neon. And so Sato may have to step up and be the guy if it's either him or Neon. Even if he's the second guy, it's just like be able to support your team and give the high fives. Sato is crucial for Lev if they want to make it to where they want to be. And then we bring it to the second team, and that's G2. And the player that needs the most impact for G2 to make it across, be able to win that championship, is Valyn. Valyn is so crucial because, bro, I can't imagine to be in a position where he's in Masters Bangkok and he's in a 1v1 to win his team the championship that they've been working so hard for, and he loses that 1v1 against Meteor. Like I still visibly remember that. I remember watching it at like 3-4 a.m. I'm like, they're about to win it. He's in a clutch and they're about to win it, and then Meteor kills him. Then that sends it down into Pearl, and they didn't even get a shot to be able to win that map. And it's just so crazy to be able to be like, how can you be able to sleep at night? And Valyn is the crucial factor. Not only is he the IGL who can frag, but he has to be able to brush off the woes and be able to have this tournament as a fresh start. And like, imagine the weight he has to carry and thinking that, oh, I could have made the difference. And I'm sure he's probably past that. But Valyn, not only is he the emotional leader, but he also needs to be able to perform, to be able to set up his guys and do the things that G2 needs to do. Because at the end of the day, if it's championship ceremony for Masters London and they're handing out the master or the MVP, they're probably either gonna give it to Valyn or Trent. And Trent is good or reliable, Mr. Consistent. But Valyn is the dude that's gonna be able to push it over the line. When you got Jogamo, where you got Baby Bay, again you got Trent and you got Leaf. And so Valyn, without a doubt, has to be able to perform. And again, so let's bring it to the last one of Americas, and that's NRG. NRG championship team without Sam, who are they gonna rely on? And I personally believe that they need Skuba to step up. Skuba, again, is probably the most critical factor that led them to where they were when they had Sam. And the thing I remember most about Skuba was that not only is he a great smokes player, but I feel like he brings so much value in the clutch factor. And recently, when he was in playoffs for stage 1, he wasn't really performing that well. But I remember, into kickoff in the previous Masters, he was always getting a clutch. He was always getting a 1v3 or a 1v2, and he needs that crucial factor. Even though he may, not be as vocal, maybe more vocal than Brock, he is the crucial factor where his gameplay sets his team up to be successful. And simply Skuba is, the biggest question mark on NRG, because you have Mata, you have Brock, you have Ethan, you have Kiko, you have all these dudes that are most likely going to perform. But since Skuba is kind of the odd man out, it's like, all right, you're going to need to be able to push across the line to get where they want, and that's be able to lift a trophy. So again, Skuba has to be able to step up from his previous performance and show off. Sometimes I can put the team on my back. Sometimes I could do, I can be that dude, so I don't have to frag out and get first bloods, but, I could do my own thing. And so let's move on to APAC, and we're going to bring on Paper X. And the person that needs to perform the most and have the most impact is something that's probably been their most highest ceiling player. Like, when you think top players in the world, something is almost always on that list, unless he's having a kind of mediocre performance, throughout a stage, and that has happened. Sometimes something can show that he's, not as consistent as people would like him to be. He has really good, really flashy plays, really good mechanics, but sometimes he can also tilt. That was something that we can kind of visibly see as a viewer. Sometimes if he knows that he's in a position where he probably could have won, or he made a mistake, or he just feels like he's better but isn't making the play, then you'll see that visible tilt. And sometimes previously that would affect the team. And going into this stage where there's a new version of Paper X, where they are probably arguably the best team in this tournament, something has to be that guy to be able to carry them across, because there's going to be people that are prepping for Paper X. Oh, they're licking their chip, or they're licking their chops. Oh, I can't wait to play Paper X. And so first thing they say, let's shut down something. Same thing with Premi. Let's shut down Premi. Let's, I haven't really heard any team say, let's go away from something. Everybody says, let's go away from Premi. And again, from my previous video, I talked about, if now isn't the time, it's time for something's finals MVP, because he has been the best player in the world, but sometimes he's overshadowed by really good performances by Forsaken, previous Masters MVP, and G. And so something is the player that needs to step up the most. And let's go into full sense. You heard Premi, and so let's talk about Premi. Premi is the dude, because this team is made to set up Premi for success. Cruz is a really incredible IGL, and I think they need slight adaptations in their game plan, because everybody knows they run a 4-1. Hey, Premi, go on the other side, because we know you can handle it down. We can always rotate and get to you. But if they don't go to you, then they got 4. We got 4 on the side, and they can fight us. And Premi, it's all about, because as you've seen it in Vietnam for Stage 1's finals, Premi can not always have that superstar game, even though he's a superstar caliber player. And this is his time to cement himself. If he's able to get to his potential as everybody thinks he is, he's going to be at the conversation for best duelist against Aspas. And Aspas is a delicate topic. Everybody says Aspas is revered, Aspas can't be touched, Aspas is the GOAT. But if Premi is able to do some damage and able to get in really good position, maybe not even a Masters final position, but in a really good position, then there will be conversations. And Premi, it needs to step up. If there's no great game for Premi, then they don't make it out of Switch. And that's plain and simple, cut and dry. Now let's move on to GE. Yeah, Patman, Udotan, Javi, Crystal, and Autumn. And the person that needs to step up the most is Udotan, because obviously Udotan is the primary duelist. And sometimes we always say that Neon isn't always going to get the best stats, because, he's been playing Neon. He's pretty much always been playing Neon, occasionally besides the triple Senti comp. But Udotan is the person, if he is the primary duelist going into the comps, then he needs to step up the most, because there isn't really that much of an impact. Like when you think of Star Duelist and Apex, you think of again Primi and something, but Udotan doesn't necessarily have to live up to the name, but sometimes he just needs flashes of head to head, like, oh, I can I can be better than you. I can sometimes he just needs to be better than them for a map. And that's those maps where you have to cross the line. Like it's difference between where I'm clearly better in a blowout map, but it's a map 3 where, hey, I'm gonna assert my will and I'm gonna be better than you. And so Udotan has to be able to set GE up. Even if he's not getting kills, it's like you have to show your impact. And even if it's like a clutch 1v1, those are the crucial rounds that are gonna be able to carry this GE team to potentially playoffs. And I would go over Patman, I would go over Autumn, I would go over the rest of the players, but I think the star is always centered around the duelist. And he doesn't have to be a star, but he has to show, hey, like I can keep my own, I can show flashes. And that's all this team really needs, because most of their game plan is, or most of their ideas are centered around their game plan and saying, hey, we have a better game plan than you. Even though we have really good shooters, we're gonna really focus on our game plan. And Udotan needs to be the spearhead, a part of that game plan. Now we're gonna move on to EMEA, and we're gonna talk about Team Heretics. Team Heretics, the person that needs to have the measure the most impact on this team. If they're not gonna make top 4, and that's Woot. Woot has always shown flashes. I visibly remember this game where they're playing FPX, and it's a really close game. Honestly, I think FPX should have won this game, but then out of nowhere, Woot just starts turning on. He just becomes a heater. He just starts, killing him, getting him like just knife kills. Like Woot has always shown flashes ever since those games were in that Masters. I can't remember off the top of my head, but ever since those games, everybody was like, "Damn, Woot, why is he not on primary list?" This is when Miniboo wasn't on the team, or well, couldn't make it because of his own personal reasons. But Woot was the main duelist at the time, and Woot showed so much impact and so much potential that everybody was like, "Why isn't he the main duelist?" And then later on, you come find out he was like, "Oh, I don't want to really be primary duelist." And now it's 2026, and he's one of the duelists. He's not the primary duelist, but guess what? Hey, bud, you gotta play duelist. And so he's playing duelist now, and I think the way they measure the most impact is obviously most people see Koshmars as their most impact guy. But with the new meta change and the new patch, I believe Woot has to be able to carry them over the line, because if Koshmars is an entry, then it's all to set up Woot. The whole game plan, most game plans within VCT is to set up 1 or 2 players to be able to get the most kills or get the most trades and be able to, carry over and take over the round. And so Woot is that person that again has the most potential. He's shown flashes, but can he be able to get a Masters trophy to be able to cement, hey, I'm that dude. I'm that dude on the best team at Masters London. For Vitality, you may disagree with this, but I think the person that needs to measure the most impact on this team is Profect. Profect showed that within the Fnatic game that, okay, I can take over. I'm not even the star player. I can take over on smokes. I can take over the game. And simply put it, sometimes the game plan can be around, 1 or 2 people, like a Durka and sometimes Chronicle, where these 2 players are the stars. These 2 players are going to get sometimes the top 2 on the leaderboard. But Profect and some of these, 3rd or 4th, 5th guys, these guys measure their impact by not only their utility, but their impact kills. Sometimes they're the last person to be left alive in the round. And Profect has the capability of, being able to be on the top 1 or 2 in the leaderboard. And if that is the case, then that is like a cherry on top of a Sunday. If he's able to do that, and not saying that he has to, but if he is able to do that and be like a Charon, where, hey, when a team full of Texture, Meteor, and Munchkin, a Charon is his gameplay is so good in the fact that, okay, like sometimes he does get overshadowed, but he still gets his respect. And Prophet has the ability to be like, hey, guys, you see all these four dudes, even with Yampi, like these dudes are stars, but I can be my own dude and I could be, one of the best smokes in this tournament. For Foot, the most inconsistent player, probably the person with most potential is Zeus. Zeus has has been highly criticized for his Phoenix play, but his Jet play and his Waylay play has probably been one of the best. And I think for him, it's such a struggle to be able to see that. Okay, on another duelist, he may not be the best, but with the person that has the ability to drop 30, sometimes, hey, if given the opportunity, he might drop 40, go to a couple overtimes. That he's kind of been in the shadow of Sop. Sop just joined, and Zeus is under the shadow. When Zeus was the spearhead, Zeus was the guy on foot, but now Sop's the dude. And I think this team comes down to if Zeus is able to perform. Because Sop, he'll put up numbers. He'll be able to have really good games and sometimes not so much. But it's just a matter of Zeus. Like if Zeus is able to perform on top of Sop, then it's pretty much GG. Like it's wraps. Like if they're gonna play against Full Sense and Zeus and Sop are able to put out numbers, they're most likely gonna win because I see an unlikely scenario where these two are able to perform at the top and they still lose the game. That's unimaginable. And lastly, we'll talk about China. In China, we'll go over this real quick. So for XLG, obviously, the elephant in the room is Rarga. Rarga has shown signs where he can step up because the last time they played NRG, he's able to, like, within the second half of I remember Abyss, he was able to like get a good amount of kills and able to show like his form, but his team has never been able to carry that. And I think it's just one of the cases where Rarga has to assert his will and be able to be up pretty much of the upper echelons. He has to be like within a top 5 duelist in order to pretty much make his team competitive. And I think it's just the whole case of where all these players that I list, if the player that I list, like in this case Rarga, is able to pop off, then that gives so much confidence to the other team. And I feel like if Rarga is able to pop off and get good rounds or a couple clutches, then that carries this team that is super underdog compared to NRG and their excellence and their team history and their team chemistry and their resilience. Then that may be able to propel them onto a potential map 3. It's all about these rounds, these little micro interactions, these little things that happen within the round that or at the end of the round that can change a whole team's life. And I think Rarga has to be, again, along with some of the other people I mentioned, has to be the spearhead on this team, be able to carry and make it into their goal in mind. A top 4 is a win, probably way above expectations for XLG. We go into EDG. EDG has probably been one of my favorite teams ever. Since they started performing at these Masters events. I believe it was Tokyo, where Kong was showing really good form, and it wasn't until Champs where it cemented like, oh, Kong is that dude. And there's been kind of a fall off with the team and how their foreman is just like, oh, it was the right place, right time. And for EDG, for what it'll take for them to be able to win and carry another trophy, it's not Kong, it's Chichu. Chichu last event for Master Santiago did not perform well at all. Pretty much the whole team did not perform. I don't think they even got a map win. Chichu has to be able to perform. Like I just remember, like peak Chichu is just doesn't matter what gun you give him. You give him a sheriff, you give him a rifle, you give him a guardian. Like he will get people. He will get people no matter what angle. Like in a straight 1v1, Chichu is probably winning it most of the time. Like he is crazy on that Sentinel. Whatever. Like I just remember his Cypher play and his Vice play. Like Chichu has pretty much been a carry for when Kong is dead. If Kong is dead, let's look at Chichu. Chichu can bail the team out of so many rounds. It is crazy. It is literally criminal how Chichu is able, like the impact that he carries and how undervalued he is. If that that champions run doesn't, that MVP doesn't go to Kong, it probably goes to Chichu, without a doubt. The last team, we'll talk about DRG. And DRG, not many people know him, but one name that came to mind, or one name that I saw a while ago when the season, or early on in the season, one name that stood out was Life. Life needs to be able to. Let's talk about Life. Life is probably one of the most controversial players when it comes to VCT because he has so much. It's such a good ceiling. Like I remember FPX playing Genji and FPX playing Team Heretics, where they had really good games where Life would just like be the energy, be the duelist, the fearless duelist that would sometimes overheat, but sometimes you just need to have that confidence. Even if you overheat, like you still need to have that confidence. And from what we've recently seen in some of the games and some of the narrative is that Life has kind of fallen off. He makes dumb decisions, but I think it's just one of those things. It's like one of those stereotypes or those scenarios where it's like where a player is put in the right environment and they just thrive. And I believe that actually in this scenario where it's against all odds, Life and Vukashu, sorry if I pronounce it, if Life is able to like be like, oh, like Masters Life, or international Life, like be able to harness like that energy in the crowd and be like, oh, like I'm able to pop off. Like if Life is able to get on his comfort ages and be able to do, like, he was a really good raise, and I haven't really seen much of his jet, at least recently, to be able to say anything. But I remember him being on Lotus against Shenji, and like he was just popping out the outlaw, just peeking, getting kills. Eventually, they didn't end up winning that series, but you saw the potential of Life and seeing like, oh wow, it's Kong, but Life is right next to him, and that was the conversation for the longest time. And then, over the course of time, that hasn't been the case. Kong has been stretching that gap, and Life has been slowly trickling down. And this may be the scenario: right time, right place, right meta read, where Life gets it together and he puts on a show. So yeah, that's how every team can win Masters London. And we went through all the teams that are in the tournament right now, and hopefully, we see some superstars and some new superstars and some really good plays out of this tournament.